Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here. Wanted to make a video about the Year of the Dragon changes, which are going to be coming to Hearthstone fairly soon. This article was released on February 28th. It's now March 13th, so we're a little bit late to the boat, but in my last video I mentioned that I wanted to talk about this. So here we are. In the Year of the Dragon, the biggest thing is that rotation is happening, so the last three sets of Standard are going to be going to Wild, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for the meta to change because we're losing over like 500 cards. And a lot of those are core cards, like Death Knights, quests, stuff like that. So the meta is going to change drastically, and I'm very much looking forward to that. It means we're also losing staple cards like Crackling Razor Maw, my most hated card. I fucking hate Crackling Razor Maw because it's the strongest 2-drop ever printed. That's not true. It's really annoying though. So, hopefully you guys are excited to see your least favorite cards rotate when the Year of the Dragon officially starts with the release of the first new set of 2019. But until then, I want to talk about what else is happening in the Year of the Dragon aside from rotation. And the biggest thing that happens in the Year of the Dragon aside from rotating old cards is the Hall of Fame, which kind of does the exact same thing as rotating old cards, except it rotates even older cards. So the Hall of Fame originally rotated strictly basic and classic set cards that were deemed problematic or overpowered, and they put them in wild so you don't have to deal with them in standard anymore, which, cool. Means we don't have to deal with problematic cards in standard, which is the main, game mode that they try to push. And this time around, the cards which we're putting into the Hall of Fame are really, pretty good. I don't have any complaints really about what's being Hall of Famed. Naturalize for Druid, Doomguard for Warlock, and Divine Favor for Paladin. Naturalize is not a card that Druid should really have available to its arsenal now that the game has evolved, and controlling, combo Druids have become super prevalent. Having 1 mana destroy any minion with very little downside, because drawing your opponent cards is not that big a deal, especially in certain, archetypes like Togwaggle, where you actively want to draw them cards so they take fatigue damage, or to try and mill their combo, stuff like that. Um, that's really strong, and it's good that it's going away, because 1 mana destroy minion is obviously broken, and then 1 mana destroy minion and also potentially mess up your opponent's combo by milling cards, or make them take fatigue damage to further your combo. That's pretty broken. So it's never really been an issue in the past, but in the past, like the far past, but in the past like 2 years, controlling druids have really come up, combo druids have really come up. So getting rid of this is really good. Druid's supposed to have two main weaknesses, one being one large minion, and the other being a very wide board that does not die to swipe. Spreading Plague kind of, removed the wide board way of beating Druid. So the only other way that they should have is if you stick one giant minion that they can't deal with because they run no hard removal, except for Naturalize, which is their only form of hard removal. So it's good that that's going away. In the past, Blizzard has rotated cards which really enhance the mill archetype, like Cold Light Oracle. So even if Naturalize wasn't currently super strong, I think that it's a candidate for Hall of Fame anyways, because they seem to be trying to get away from the mill style of fatigue decks and kind of more into the Dead Man's Hand, adding resources to your own deck to further the time it takes for you to get to fatigue rather than quickening how fast your opponent gets to fatigue. So that's cool. Naturalize should probably be rotated. Doomguard. Doomguard's been a staple in Warlock in the entirety of Hearthstone's history. It's been in both control and aggro decks. It was first a staple in Zoo, then Zoo started actually cutting it. The new Heal Zoo does not run it at all. But now it's used in Q Block. And Team 5 in the past has really been trying to target charge as a mechanic and either nerf or rotate cards that, use the charge mechanic. So it was a matter of time before Doomguard got hit as well, just because it's such an insane amount of stats that also gets to hit face. And the charge on it means that you were able to do stuff with cubes and deal 30, 40 damage in a turn, because you pull a Doomguard with Skull, you hit with it, you cube it, you Tolerate it, you kill both cubes, you make a bunch more Doomguards, and then with Gul'dan you spawn all your Doomguards back again, and that's just a lot of charge damage and that amount of reach just through, charge damage alone should not really be in the game. They're definitely leaning towards more spell based, lots of different resources all in one turn combo decks, rather than these kind of combo decks like Q Block, where turn one you play Skull, turn two you pull out a you pull out a Doom Guard and maybe you cube it, but then if you have 10 mana, then you pull out a Doom Guard, you cube it, you Tal'Daram it, you eat both of them, and then that's like a ton. But you got to set that up preemptively. They seem to be trying to move towards combo decks that take many turns to set up, kind of like OTK Paladin. OTK Paladin, you have to draw your entire deck to be able to Shirvala Holy Wrath, or you have to start shuffling in and getting 50-50s and 25% chances with your Exodia little horsemen to try and bounce them back in your hand or put them in your deck with Baleful Bankers and stuff like that. So they're trying to get away from these very consistent OTKs for more of the style of, you've done a lot of turns of work, so now you get rewarded instead of just your entire game plan is based, I'm not sure how eloquently I just described that, but I hope my point got across. And if it didn't, let me know in the comments. I'll try and make a better way to explain that point. But I'm just going to leave it at that because that was a little bit long-winded, and I'm not sure if it was really going anywhere further. The final card being rotated to Hall of Fame from the Classic set is Divine Favor. Divine Favor is the worst card ever printed in Hearthstone. I have no issue saying that. I think I've said that before about Level Up, and turns out Paladin gets really, really strong cards. This takes the cake over Level Up, though, because Level Up did get nerfed, and Level Up is not a Classic set card. Divine Favor is completely broken because there's almost no playing around it, and when you do play around it, the difference is so inconsequential to if you didn't play around it that it doesn't really matter. So what I mean by that is if you're playing Control Warrior versus Aggro Paladin, Aggro Paladin's going to play a ton of little crappy minions that cost nothing, and then on turn 3, 4, 5 is going to be open to Divine Favoring you. If you're playing Control Warrior, you're not going to have many cards to play in, turn 1, 2, potentially 3. So just by the fact that you're playing a control deck, this Aggro Paladin is going to be able to 3 mana draw 8 cards off you. And in the case where you play around Divine Favor, you can maybe play like 1 or 2 extra cards for inefficient, value to play around Divine Favor, but they still get to Divine Favor you for 3, or for 6 instead of 8. And really, the difference between drawing 6 cards and drawing 8 cards in an aggro deck that's just spewing a bunch of crap on the board is really not that important. Divine Favor polarizes matchups that really shouldn't. Like, if you're playing an aggro deck, you can tech your deck to be better versus other aggro decks, and that's cool. You can tech your deck to be better versus certain cards in control decks, and that's cool. But the fact that Divine Favor completely eliminates the fact that if someone's playing a control deck, which is meant to counter aggro decks, and then you completely counter them with 1 card in your deck, is kind of broken. So, Divine Favor's been talked about for the past, since Hall of Fame started, about being Hall of Famed, and it's about time that it finally actually got hit. It's one of those cards, like, the Hearthstone team has said before, sometimes they nerf or change cards based on how they feel to play against rather than their stats. So Quest Rogue had like a 50% win rate, but guess what? It felt really shitty to play against, so it got nerfed time and time again. Divine Favor is kind of the same way. I bet you Divine Favor, 40, 50% win rate. One of the most broken cards, one of the worst cards to play against, because there's nothing you can do to impact how it fundamentally works. You can give it marginal disadvantages, like drawing 6 over drawing 8, but guess what? They still drew 6 cards for 3 mana, and that's really broken. So I'm glad to see that go. In the Year of the Dragon, along with those rotations, we have the first appearance of rotating cards that are not from the standard or from the classic or basic set, which is a good precedent to set, because it means that if there's ever more mistakes like these cards, we're not going to have to worry about dealing with them for their entire standard lifespan. The cards in question are Baku and Genn, and ever since they've been released, even and odd decks have just been really, really powerful. Basically, the amount of consistency you get from playing a Baku or Genn deck outweighs by a mile the disadvantage you have from building your deck as only odd or even. Turns out that while it seems like it'd be very difficult to make an odd or even deck good, it was not as hard as it seemed. And the amount of consistency you get by upgrading a hero power is just way too much. So the best argument I've seen against Baku in particular, and then it kind of goes over to Genn because it has the same fundamental issue of making your hero power super consistent. So that's why that's getting rotated as well, even though Genn's not as much of an issue card at the moment. But anyways, back to the point. If you could take any 1 mana spell from your class and make it your hero power and make it cost 2, you would almost always do that. That's basically what you're doing with Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin is a deck that has a card called Lost in the Jungle, which is 1 mana summon 2 1/1s. That is now your hero power as well, and even when that's your hero power, it's still such a strong effect that you're going to run 2 times of Lost in the Jungle in your main deck as well. So being able to, for every turn, play Lost in the Jungle for 2 mana without actually expending a card, that means that you gained a card advantage just by hitting your hero power, and your opponent's going to have to use their actual cards to deal with those resources that you got for free. And that amount of consistent every turn, hey, for 2 mana, I didn't spend a card, I got more, like basically a card's worth of value. The reason that hero powers innately are not that impactful, like 2 mana summon a 1/1, okay, cool. A 1/1 costs like 0 mana. So for 2, because I get that as an option every turn, it costs 2. 2 mana to deal 1 damage. That's nothing. That's super weak. So the fact that you can make your hero power strong enough to actually warrant like mana being put into a, like you're paying base hero power for Paladin is 2 mana summon a 1/1. That's 0 mana worth of value. So you're spending 2 mana to get 0 mana worth of value. But because, you know, sometimes you just have nothing to do with your turn, I get a 1/1. It was very inefficient, but I did something. When you're able to turn that inefficient do something every turn into something that's really efficient, that's a problem, and that just gives too much consistency to decks, and that kind of idea can be extrapolated out to all the odd or even decks. So I'm glad to see that these are being rotated out. They've just been a real problem since they've been introduced, and I'm really glad we don't have to deal with them through the entire standard lifespan. With those, we lose some of the odd and even support cards, which, it kind of makes sense that they're going to rotate them because you're not going to have any reason to build an odd or even deck in standard without Genn and Baku. But, you know, I mean, these cards didn't really ever see too much play. Merc's Requiem was really popular in Even Shaman before that got nerfed, so that's cool. It's really a powerful card. Black Cat sees playing Odd Mage. Kind of sad we'd lose Odd Mage because that's not too strong. But it's an interesting archetype. Glittermoth never saw play. Gloomstag never saw play. But I think that what we've learned from the even and odd situation is that if you're going to do start a game, you can't have it be something that is super consistent and like affects every turn of the match. So sure, sometimes if you're going to do like start a game, shuffle this into your deck, and maybe it's like a 4 mana card you shuffle in your deck and it's really good. Sometimes you're going to high roll and draw that for turn 4, and that feels a little bit bad. Whatever. It's not as bad as, hey, every turn I get, you know, to not use a card but still get the value of a card. That's just broken. So, sad to see that these cards leave, because they were all pretty interesting and cool, but there's no reason to use... They're not enough to build your deck around, like Genn and Baku were, without Genn and Baku in standard. So, it makes sense they leave. Along with Hall of Fame rotation, there's single-player stuff coming. I'll be honest, I haven't looked into the single-player content that much, but it seems like they're going from making it kind of one and done, like all the past single players have been, to actually making it follow like a story, and you get pack rewards, and there's actually reason to go through them all aside from getting like card backs or like the Arthas hero, and that's cool. Giving players a actual like I think it's kind of cool that you can get card backs and heroes from doing single player, but giving people just hard like, hey, I got a pack that's worth $1. You know, giving an actual like monetary incentive to doing the single player content is really cool, and it looks like they're going to be overhauling a lot of how single player worked from what we know. They have this little graphic that shows a bunch of stuff, and it seems really cool. They're trying to make more of an actual story mode, kind of like how the adventures used to be, and the adventures were great before that system got phased out. So I hope that that works out, and I hope that single player is really cool. I'm optimistic about it, but there's not a lot of information around about it yet. So hopefully that's cool. Um, for Arena, they're testing out a new system for Arena where you get like blocks of sets of cards to draft from. So there was a Tavern Brawl where you got to play with only goblins and gnomes, Grand Tournament, kobolds and catacombs, and like basic and classic cards, and that was really cool because it makes its own meta because there's cards that you expect to see that you just can't run because those sets aren't in that block, you know. So you get basically an entire new game, um, just by limiting what cards potentially can go in decks. So that was a great Tavern Brawl, and I think that that'd be a great mode for ladder if they ever wanted to release another ladder mode where, hey, for the next 3 months you get these cards and those are the only sets you have, so figure out the meta, go for it, hit legend. And I think that that's what this is leading towards eventually, but it's good to test it out in Arena first, see if it's a complete flop or if it's just gonna like break something. um, I don't play a lot of Arena, but the block system is pretty cool, so hopefully Arena players don't get, you know, too pissed off. Hopefully it works out pretty well and it doesn't just like fuck them over, because that'd be really interesting. So I like the sounds of that. Finishing up, there's some little things that come with the Year of the Dragon. There's Fireside Gathering stuff. I've been in like 2 Fireside Gatherings. I have really no intention of searching these out, but some people think, you know, some people run them, some people think they're cool, so there's going to be extra stuff there. So it's good to know they're just not dropping that system. You can reroll legendary quests. This is pretty dumb, but Reddit complained about it for like a long ass time, so I guess it's cool that it's there. I don't really understand the point, because for all your legendary quests you're getting packs, which is going to be better than like the 50 gold you get from a normal quest, so just sit through and do it. It takes like, I don't know, an hour, but whatever. There's people that still have the legendary quest for playing 10 games of Standard to get Lunara, the Druid hero. Standard came out a long ass time ago, guys. If you're gonna not play 10 Standard games in like 3 years, I really don't think your opinion should be, you know, given so much weight by the Hearthstone team. Because that was something that came up on Reddit a lot, where people were like, oh my god, Lunara still takes up a quest slot. It's like, if you're gonna complain about it 3 years later, just play 10 games. It's not that hard. But whatever. Cool that that's being added, I guess. Random card back option, cool. I don't really care about card backs, but it's cool that you can get them. And I'll probably use the random card back option because I have a shit ton of them. And sometimes it's cool just to see different ones. I guarantee you there's ones that I have that I don't even know I have. And by using the random option, I will finally see them. Because there's some pretty cool art on some of them. The deck builder seems pretty cool, because it's kind of like a in-game version of HS Replay, but you can use it for shitty cards. So if I go to HS Replay and I type in give me a deck that has Marabi, it's very unlikely that there's a deck that has Marabi that it has 10 unique users that have all played like over 400 games, because Marabi sucks. But if I put it into the in-game client, they know every single deck that's ever been made and piloted by anyone who's ever played Hearthstone. HS Replay only knows whoever plays on PC or Mac and uses the HS Replay website. So it'll be good for making decks with shitty cards, and that's always fun to do for videos and when you're bored. So, yay. That's basically it. We get to say goodbye to the Year of the Mammoth and say hello to the Year of the... Wait, Year of the Mammoth. Year of the Raven, and get to say hello to the Year of the Dragon, and I'm pretty excited. Rotation cannot come soon enough because I find the meta extremely boring, so hopefully, you know, all the new stuff that's happening with Year of the Dragon is great. I am most looking forward to rotation, and yeah. So, if there's anything that you guys think I missed or that I didn't touch on enough, make sure to let me know in the comments section. Aside from that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord down in the description, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.